All right, here we go, immune system. The immune system is basically one BAMFer, right? It does so much stuff, and it does it. The cool thing about the immune system is that it's able to communicate this. It shows the way that cells can communicate with other cells to fight infection, right? And that's what we are constantly, basically, we are covered in filth constantly. Bacteria, viruses, fungus, crap everywhere. And our immune system is what keeps us healthy. Like, here's a really awesome picture of a lymphocyte, right? This is one of our immune system cells. And these are kind of like these little, basically cytoplasm tendrils that go out and they just pick up the bacteria and they shove it in their big fat mouths and they eat it. So the immune system is pretty great. So those of you that are suffering through allergies right now, that the allergies are basically your immune system freaking out, or if you have a cold, think that immune system. Every time you blow your nose and it's brown and bloody, look up to the sky and be like, thanks immune system. So this is super complicated. So I broke this up into in two different lectures. This is going to be the first lecture. So I'm going to throw a lot of words at you, and here's kind of what I'm looking for, what we're talking about. Pathogen. The pathogen is any negative, any foreign invader, and I don't mean anything from anybody from the Middle East, all right? I mean something outside the body, all right? Trump. So any pathogen, something that's outside the body that goes into the body. Bacteria, viruses, fungus, whatever. So the antigens, these are basically the pieces of the pathogen that help our body to identify what it is. So what our immune system does when that bacteria or that virus gets into our body, if it multiplies to the point where our immune system has to kick in, it's gonna identify it, right? The pathogens has to be broken down, and then our body's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is this virus, let's, get ourselves after it. We have some major immune responses. The first is barriers. We'll talk about these in more detail. And then we have some non-specific responses. This is kind of like when everything's on alert. Everything just flips out. Fever, inflammation. We don't know what's there, but we're not liking it, so we're gonna flip out. Kind of like when you overreact to something. This is kind of like you get one piece of information, maybe you get a text, maybe you get a snap, as the teens say, and you're like, wait, what? And you flip out. Maybe you look at your grade and you see that you didn't turn in an assignment and it's a 0, and then you yell at me, right? Even though you can just turn it in and I'll give you the points. The flipping out is kind of that non-specific response, okay? It doesn't know what it's targeting, but you know something bad is happening, fever, inflammation, all that good stuff. Then we have something more specific, okay? You've got your cells, you've got your humoral, right? So the cellular response is gonna be the T cells, the humoral is gonna be the B cells, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And then you have your chemical responses, which are other proteins, other chemicals in your body that are gonna come to the aid. Barriers, here we go. Skin, hair, gross, right? I hate skin, it's gross, right? You know how you've got like bumps and on your skin? Your skin is the main thing that is one of the major things that are keeping you safe, okay? You've got oil, you've got sweat, you've got grossness on your skin. Pathogens can't get in, okay? So, look at all this gross skinness. So you've got this sweat gland, right? That's keeping barriers, or that's keeping pathogens away. You have your gross hair, you have all this stuff. So that's me. I mean, skin's kind of awesome. I'm kind of grossed out by skin. So you have, that's your first barrier. That's what's going to keep viruses out. You also have mucous membranes, like your nose, right? You have those mucous membranes in your nose. You have them in other parts of your body. That mucus helps to almost like create a slime that helps to trap and keep pathogens out of your body. What they say now is, like, on airplanes, because you're like basically in this like little tinder box of disease, right? What they say now is that if you take Vaseline and put it on the inside of your nose, that's going to also help to keep you safe or keep you from getting sick on airplanes. So all that stuff. Tears is another one, right? Your tears are going to help keep your pathogens outside of your eye. So all that gross stuff is keep you safe. All right, let's talk about your cells, right? So if, say, a pathogen does enter your body, say it gets past the skin, okay? your cells and your tissues go to town because they're not having it. So white blood cells. So you have these things, okay? This is a very general term. The phagocytes are a general term that describes these things, okay? These are big cells. These are big cells that are right below your skin, and their job is to just eat anything up that comes in that's foreign, okay? You also have, so this is kind of like after the skin, you've got this, right? This is the first thing that the bacteria is going to get, or the pathogen is going to encounter. And then you have your lymphocytes. This is kind of like that second cell that's gonna kick in, okay? So if a bacteria or a pathogen or a virus, if they replicate to the point where these guys can no longer do their job, then it goes to these guys, okay? And your T cells and your B cells, we'll talk about them, but they're in your lymph nodes. That's why they're called lymphocytes. They exist in your lymph nodes, and they have memory. And they're the ones that are like more specialized forces, right? These are like your Navy SEALs, okay? And these are just like, I don't know, big dudes with tanks, right? These are like your tanks that are like just going to bowl over anything and everything. Whereas your lymphocytes are a little bit more specialized. They have a little bit more information. They're a little bit more finesse. Complement proteins. Okay, so say there's proteins that are going to try to fight this off. The first are the complement. They want to weaken the pathogen membranes and blow them up. Very simple. They're proteins. They get all up in there, and they want to blow up the bacteria. Okay? Boom. Let's make this happen. See ya later. Okay? Then you have antibodies. So these are still considered on that cellular level. So these are going to be, your antibodies are going to be your B cells, okay? So this is the antibody right here, okay? What the antibody does, and these are the pathogens. It's kind of like so guys, The Fate of the Furious. I just saw that movie. And what they do there is a lot of times they'll line up the bad guys and knock them all down. That's what your antibody does. Your antibody joins the pathogens together so the macrophage can come and just eat them all up really easy, okay? I know. Who thought that The Fate of the Furious was so highbrow? And then you have the interferons, okay? So these guys have been infected by a virus, and they're going to prevent the virus from reproducing and infecting healthy cells. So the interferons are going to be here. Boop, 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 boop. They're proteins, but they have some knowledge of that virus, okay? And they're going to prevent the virus from interfering or from replicating. Interferons are used for viral, like I said, viral infections. You'll see interferons used with things like hepatitis C, which is a virus, right? You'll have people who have hepatitis C will go in and they'll get like an interferon treatment, and they'll have interferons put into their body to help control the virus. So that's the protein business, okay? Again, now we're on that nonspecific response. So it's the same for every pathogen. Whatever is going in there, we're flipping out, okay? Think about you guys right before finals week, and you're just like one big ball of stress, you're high energy, you're freaking out about everything. That's you. This is you having a nonspecific response. The same thing about your immune system. So inflammation of fever. When you get a fever, a lot of times your body is like, okay, whoa, what happened, right? So your body's like, I don't know what to do, so we're going to help raise our temperature. We're going to help to kill whatever is inside of us that we don't like, okay? So when things get inflamed, our blood vessels become leaky, gross. So the WBCs are the white blood cells. So the white blood cells, that helps to release them and get them toward that infection into damaged tissue. The other thing, though, too, is that a lot of times fever can indicate a situation where the body can't control whatever's inside of it. So when you see things like, oh, if you have a fever over 105, go to the doctor. Because a lot of times that means the infection has gotten out of control and you got to get some help. So the inflammatory response, right? This is just blood vessels. Your blood vessels essentially bringing in blood, bringing in water to the site. So you have a pin, you've got this bacteria, gross, 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 right here. You've got your white blood cells here. You've got water and all that good stuff in your blood. So this is like, wait a minute, we don't like this. Help. Help me. And then your blood cells get larger, they swell, and it helps to leak out the white blood cells and help to just eat that up, okay? Very non-specific, right? These guys are just hanging out in your blood cells, and they get the bat call, and they're like, hold on, I got it, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat some disgusting bacteria. Fun fact, too, is that when you sneeze and you guys get that gross brown stuff at the end, usually at the end of the cold, that's your white blood cells. It's like basically dead organic matter. So it's your white blood cells that have digested a bacteria, and then what they do is they commit suicide because they don't want you to expend any more energy on that. So that's what they do. Fever. Okay, so here's the thing. Low fevers are good, high fevers are bad. So your low fevers are going to help to stimulate your white blood cells to mature. It's going to help get things going. Yay, right? And if you look at this, so let's look at, so this is boom, 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 boom. Look how easy that is, right? This is your low fever right here. And you're getting your maturation. You're kind of like kicking some things into gear. Your high fever is kind of like, uh-oh, this has gotten out of control, and it spikes. And when your body gets too hot, essentially, that's where this can happen. Seizure, brain damage, even death. That's why they say, hey, if you're too hot to handle, okay, if your ball are too hot, go to the hospital. All right, so let's talk about the specific immune responses. So these are going to be kind of your B and your T cells, right? These are going to be your special forces. So you have antigens, and these are bad guys. The antigens are the bad guys. Bad guys. So they're basically non-self proteins. They're foreign substances, and I don't mean foreign from another country. I mean like foreign, like outside the body. So you've got these surface proteins on pathogens, okay? And they're very specific. That's why you've got specific immune response. You've got specific pathogens. So you've got this virus, and it's got these like little antigens here, okay? And then you also have, and this is the same thing. Your bacteria has antigens here, and the virus has antigens. They're little proteins on the outside of the. When it comes to your T cells, okay, you have, here is kind of like your lymph. Think of it like this. This is your lymph nodes. And they're going to make the T cells. So this is your, think of them as like big white blood cells, okay? And then what they do is they'll sometimes eat, bad guy. They're going to digest the bad guy, and then they're going to leave the antigens on the outside of the protein. So since this is a good guy, he can go and talk to the T cells, but he's like, hey, I have a secret message for you. Check this out. And then the T cell is like, oh, snap. Okay, let me go get reinforcements. And that's what kind of triggers the T cells to kind of come in and go kill whatever needs to kill. So once they talk, if you look, the T cell then has this antigen on it as well. And that T cell is like, hey, we need to go kill this, okay? So the T cell goes back here, it goes back to the lymph nodes, right, to get more T cells and activate them, essentially. So these have not been activated yet. These guys haven't been activated, these guys have. So they're gonna go out to war, okay? These guys kind of need the message. And then they go and they just demolish, okay? But they're specific to the antigen. So they have knowledge on how to kill that virus, that bacteria, that fungus, all right? God, I hope that's not too confusing. B cells, same thing. Only B cells do it like this. Okay, so you have your B, the pathogen, the bad guy. The B cell's like, wait a minute, this guy's bad. And then what the B cell does, it basically goes and gets, so they tell the B cell, guess what? It comes down here and it basically tells the pathogen, okay, how do I make this simple? I'm making this way more complicated. So here's what you got with the, basically what you have here is you have higher quantity. The T cell is going to be a very specific, very finesse response. The B cells, again, it's very specific, but there's more of it. Those antibodies are more of it. So these are your antibodies, right? The B cells help to produce the antibodies. So the B cell comes in contact with the pathogens. The B cell's like, what? We got to make more of these. Hold on. Make antibodies, make antibodies. Remember, antibodies are the ones that are going to group the pathogens together. So they tell them to make the antibodies, and then what happens is the macrophage or the phagocytes, they eat up all of them and they spit them all out at once. I can explain this in class. Hopefully that made sense. We'll go over the humoral response tomorrow. But yeah, so that's basically what we're talking about. Let's look at the primary and secondary responses, right? So you have your first response is going to be things like, so you're going to be your secondary response is going to be things like this. This is going to be your secondary response, right? The primary response is basically the first time you're exposed to it. The first time you're exposed to whatever. That is going to allow your body to make cells that have that memory. So the first time you're exposed to something, you might have a severe cold, or like when you have chicken pox for the first time. It's horrible, right? Well, your body holds on to that virus. It has the tools to kill that virus. So the next time you're exposed, it ain't happening, because these B and T cells are going out real quick, and they're making sure none of that nonsense gets by. All right, so write down all your questions. We will go over these tomorrow, I promise you. All right, peace out, everybody.